whilst we wait for a couple more people to trickle through, my name is Ollie and I'm going to be running the demo today. We're part of Generation Digital and we are a solution partner of Miro's, very much an extension of their team, and we are a licensed reseller and services provider, and I lead the professional services team, so very much sit inside of the tool. There is today no such thing as a silly question, so if you do have a question or something specific about Miro you'd love me to cover, I'm going to spend some time at the end of our session today to make sure we get through and answer any of those questions. But without further ado, let's dive in to Miro Prototype. So welcome to our webinar today. I'm going to be going through the feature itself and actually demoing a couple of examples of how you might use Miro prototypes and the sort of value it can immediately bring to your organization. Just a quick intro to Miro and the feature. Miro, of course, is your collaboration tool that really helps drive communication, collaboration, and keeps everything on one space. And what you're seeing right here is an example of a Miro canvas. And Miro Prototypes is a paid add-on available for starter, business, and enterprise plans. It sits on top of Miro's free manual prototyping tools and adds AI-powered generation, interactivity, and advanced components all directly on the Miro canvas. So really, it's going to help your teams move faster from idea to validated visual concept before committing to that high-fidelity code design. So this really sits as that sort of core part of the discover and early define phase of your product generation. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this Miro canvas board here. I'm going to slightly zoom out. And you can see here we've got a couple of items that sit on our board. We have the very sort of familiar, if you've used Miro a lot, the stickies sort of brainstorming section. And here we've got some examples of some of the ideas that teams may have pulled together for brainstorming their idea for an app that they're prototyping currently. We have a format here called the table, and this is just some further examples of some of those ideas brought to life. And if we scroll down here, you can see we've got a product brief and some inspiration for our prototype app. So this may be a fairly simplified but sort of generalized view of how your teams are collaborating and working inside of the tool. As you can see here, we've got a product brief. Let's go into focus mode and review this brief together. So we've got a summary. We want a lightweight app that targets professionals to structure accountability without a flexible fitness and well-being program. We have some goals, we've got some user personas, a problem statement that the team are working through, and some product requirements here. So a fairly lightweight product spec here, a product brief, but this can be an example of the kind of input that we want to put inside of our prototype that we're building. I'm going to go back to my canvas and we're going to look at some of the inspiration here. These are just images pulled from online, and this is to represent that sort of really simplified version of that sort of sounding board and a bit of a mood board when it comes to the kind of assets we want to create on our prototype app. And as I scroll down here, I've also added a style guide here as well. So some hex and some roles for those various different color schemes. So let's talk about how we can use prototyping here to really start turbocharging the way that our teams work inside of Miro. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to first go to my brainstorming section here. And what I want to do is I want to use Miro's AI to really help me categorize and structure my sticky notes here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these sticky notes right here. I'm just going to move my window. There we go. I'm going to click on the Miro AI option. And here you can see I can either convert these stickies into documents or different pieces of work. You can actually see we've got the prototype option here as well. For now, all I want to do is I'm going to actually structure by our keywords. I'm going to let AI inside Miro do all of that structuring of my ideas. And as I zoom out here, I'm going to just move this over here, and you can see here it's actually structured my stickies into various different aspects. And you can see here we've got beta testing, travel recommendations, account setup, and platform priorities and edge cases. So this is a really quick way to help structure the ideas that are going to be feeding my prototype. Now, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to take my product brief here, and I want to essentially convert this into a user flow and a flow diagram for me to use to build my prototype. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select my product brief. I'm also going to select all of my sticky notes here. And then I'm going to go to my sidekicks here, open this up. I'm going to create a new sidekick here, and I'm going to say, create a flow diagram of the user journey. And I'm going to even spell a couple of those things wrong there. But Miro AI is going to interpret my request, and it's actually going to create me a flow diagram, hopefully spelt correctly, and add that directly to my canvas. And the reason why we're doing this is to show you exactly how powerful Miro can be. In a lot of AI tools, when you are interfacing, you are using pretty much text and file uploads to interface. Within Miro AI, the board and the canvas is the prompt. So every item we have on our board here, we're going to use inside of our prototype. So I'm going to let Miro's AI build out that flow diagram for me. And what I'm going to do is, whilst that's happening, I'm going to talk a little bit around some of the features that Prototype enable us to do. So Prototype sits alongside a lot of the features we already have inside of Miro. Of course, it's possible to build some lo-fi prototypes through our Miro manually. But really what we want to do is we want to turbocharge this and allow Miro's AI to really help us create quick and editable assets directly to our canvas. So I'm going to add my flow diagram to my canvas now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select some of the key components here. I'm going to select my UX inspiration, my product brief. I'm going to select all of my stickies here. And I'm even going to select my table format. And this is what's going to be feeding our prototype. So all I need to do now is click the AI and click prototype. And in just a moment, we're going to start prototyping. Let me actually go into here. And I want to do click prototype. And what I want to do is I want to say, create me a first draft prototype of the user journey. There we go. Use all the assets on my canvas to help me visualize the app. And I'm going to click enter there. And now Miro's AI is going to do the rest for me. It's going to select and look at all the objects on my canvas, whether they're images, whether they're stickies, and it's going to now start helping me create my habit app journey. And it's going to be using everything we've got here. So it's going to be using the flow diagram we generated using AI. It's going to be using the sticky notes that we clustered and grouped earlier from today. It's going to be using our sort of app idea. Now, whether that is user feedback or that being requests from design teams or requests from external teams, we're going to be using that format there as well. We're going to be using some of the images and the style guide we provided. And of course, we're going to be inputting that product brief. And in just a moment, our prototype is going to be created. And as you can see, Miro is putting together our vision. Now, the benefit here is it means that we can easily and quickly generate first draft ideas of our prototypes with just the click of a button. This can be useful for product teams when you are kind of visualizing requirements without waiting for a design resource. For business analysts, it helps you communicate ideas faster at higher fidelity to your stakeholders. For your developers, it helps you explore the interfaces early and reduce the spec ambiguity. And for your designers, typically it's nearly there. It's just spinning up our process. I'm going to add this to my canvas. Typical. It seems to have struggled there, of course, with these demos. Sometimes we have to go on the fly. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to reduce the spec here. Perhaps I'm just going to click my diagram here because we've already reduced our sticky notes and our project brief into one space. So actually, I'm going to retry my example here. So I'm going to select my diagram, go to our AI, and I want it to create my prototype. I'm going to say try again, and hopefully this time it's going to generate something that we can look at right away. So you can see here it's creating a mobile app tracker based on that onboarding and setup flow. But it allows us, when we're on calls, to very quickly make changes and have tangible mock-ups live inside client meetings. So this feature is really helpful when you are working at pace and want to visualize your team's ideas right from the get-go. And this means that we can very quickly generate different screens and different flows as interactable prototypes right from a click of a button on from our canvas. And of course, this is sort of representing sort of a full sort of product brainstorming sort of process. So whether this is individual boards that are being used in this process or condensed in this space right here, we're going to be able to create that prototype example right here on our screen. It's just going to take a little moment for that to do so. It's wiring up those connections, and it's going to be creating it just to onto my canvas. Now, when we are using our sidekicks to help us create content inside of Miro, of course, only myself as the user is going to see the output of this until I explicitly add it to my canvas. So it means that I can really dictate and go backwards and forwards with my sidekick. It looks like I'm having a bit of issues here today. I'm just going to refresh my prototyping. It's always when you do the demos where it seems to take a little bit of trouble here. Let's see if we can't get this to work. I'm going to select those two objects. I want to create a prototype here. There we go. You're seeing a peek behind the curtain. And I want to create a mobile multi-flow prototype. Here we go. Third time's a charm. Like I say, with AI, the ability to very quickly bounce backwards and forwards between my various different formats on my canvas really helps me very quickly and dynamically interface with my AI. Of course, all of these features we're showing you today are still in beta. So whilst you're looking at this, any quirks, any changes we will see, of course, are work in progress. And as you can see here, we are adapting on the fly as we pull together our prototype here. But in terms of where Miro prototype sits, if it is a replacement for some of your core prototyping tools, for example, for Figma, no, Miro prototypes are specifically designed for the early discovery and design phase. So before you move into that really high fidelity design, it complements Figma rather than replacing it. So a better together process is really the sort of the goal here when it comes to this feature. And do you need to be a designer to use it? Not at all. It's specifically built with non-designers in mind. So your project managers, your business analysts, your developers. AI does the heavy lifting. You describe what you want, you select the existing content, and it generates those screens. Hopefully, in our third time, here we go. I knew we will get there eventually. So as you can see here, with a click of a button 3 times, we've been able to create a prototype directly onto our canvas. And as you can see here, it's created a flow for us. So you've got your Pocket Coach. All of these elements here are all editable and interactable. And as you can see here, with all the different connection points, it's giving me my multi-screen flow. I'm going to shut down my sidekick there. And what we can do is we can actually, as you can see here, directly copy to Figma, or we can set this as our default view. And what I like doing is when we are looking at sharing our content with external stakeholders, Setting our prototype as the default view means that we go to the prototype screen here. So you can see here directly inside my Miro prototype, I can continue to refine and develop this prototype right here. I can really quickly edit and change things about my prototype from this screen here. So we've got some of the basic functionality. I can add buttons, rounded, square, outline, links, input fields, drop downs, steppers. I can add all of those nice and quickly from my window on the left-hand side. I can easily access my icons as well. Now, these are Miro built icons, but if you have an asset library that you want to tie into this, that sits on your canvas, that's something we can immediately do. We've got some advanced options here as well. So we can actually start inputting some functional calendars, sign in with socials. These quick links to add and tweak these prototypes is a really fast way of doing this. And you can see here, we have our flow screen. So let's say we wanted to actually visualize what the prototype looks like. And what we can do is we can actually kind of view what this demo looks like here. So let me see if I can go send to interactive display. Hang on, let me pull up my prototype here. We go back to the canvas. I'm going to hit the preview prototype button. And you can see here now on my screen, I can actually go through and start interacting with my prototype. So I can click some of these buttons and it's going to be going through that automated flow for me. Continue with email. You can see here, I can select these different icons and start testing my prototype on the fly. So I can go through here and I'm already focusing and identifying some things I'd like to change. So I'm going to click through. Okay, I'm happy with my prototype. I'm going to go back to my board here. And you can see we're back on the canvas. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to select some of my pieces here. I want to start actually changing and editing the display. So I'm going to start adding items directly to my my prototype. I can start dragging and adding things, and you can see here, I can start editing all of these aspects. This is a title. So I can, on the fly, with my collaborators, start changing and editing my prototype. What I'm going to do, I'm actually going to ask my Miro sidekick here. I'm going to say, can you change the color scheme on my prototype? Let's replace the purple with green. And I'm going to do that here. I'm going to go back to our canvas. I'm just going to refresh here. There we go. Select the pages I perhaps want to focus on or I want to change. Actually, to go back into here. And let's actually start thinking about how we want to flow. So actually, let's change the format of my prototype. Let's go for a tablet prototype. Let's go for a multi-screen flow. And actually, what I want to do is I want to focus on the payment flow itself. Let's say we want to have a payment flow process for my habit tracker using the existing flow. Let's say replace the purple with green. And maybe I want to have an option for Apple Pay. And just by interacting with my canvas here, you can see it's going to be tweaking and changing and adding to my prototype. I can select some of these nodes here and I can ask Miro AI to update the style. So let's change the style directly from here. And you can see very quickly, I'm updating aspects of my prototype. I can manually come in here and reconfigure some of these connection points. But in terms of speed and the ability to adapt nice and quickly, it means that as I'm working with my team, perhaps on call with a client or working with my designers, we can brainstorm in real time. And it's not just conceptual now. We have an interactable prototype that we can work on, configure, update, and share very, very quickly. And you can see here, Miro sort of continuing to work on iterations as we go through. I'll go back to my canvas. Of course, this sits alongside the rest of my canvas here. So you can see from earlier my various different aspects and the extra titles that I was giving. In fact, what I want to do, let's actually delete some of those there. I don't think we need those. It's not as good as the prototype that Miro gave me. And actually what I'm going to do is actually look at this new one that we've just generated right here. If I just zoom right in, and you can see here, it's taken the advice I gave it. I wanted to see that payment flow with Apple Pay. It's already actually given me some examples of some of those logos. It's updated the payment screen, and it's using that tablet sort of focus here. And you can see here, if I add this to my canvas, and I want to actually preview and look at that that prototyping flow. Let's actually move this out of my canvas here, put it on the canvas right here. I want to put this inside of a frame. Here we go. And very quickly and easily, I'm able to adapt and move things around. It looks like I'm struggling to get this into my frame. But essentially, these being objects on my canvas means that my team can very quickly give feedback, whether that's giving comments, at mentioning users. This looks great. Looks great. Let's add our logo. So I can then start to collaborate with my team. I can then add images. I can update. And including sort of referencing other pieces here. So we updated the color scheme. Let's actually go back to my prototype here. I'm going to say using the UX inspiration, update the color scheme for my prototype. And I want to select the objects on my canvas here as well. And it's going to be able to make those changes in real time. I know we're approaching the end of this very quick demo, so I'm just going to quickly reference our chat here. It looks like, Sirohi, you are a UX designer and use Miro to brainstorm and for workshops. In terms of what you're seeing here, does this feel like this would be a product that and an add-on that would be really helpful for your teams as you go through and design? You may have noticed I'm not a UX designer myself, and perhaps could do, I'm sure you could do a way better job in terms of giving this some proper inspiration for it to turn into a prototype. But even just using those very, very basic and very broad product specs and sort of brainstormed notes, it's been able to make an interactive prototype that I can work from, a first draft, if you will. If you do have any questions around the functionality of prototypes, please feel free to put them in the Google chat, and I'll be more than happy to cover off. If you are willing to and wanting to find out more about how to get prototypes enabled in your Miro instance, we will be in touch, and you're more than welcome to get in touch with Generation Digital, and some of our account managers will be able to give you a further demo inside the feature, perhaps more focused on your use cases. But this enables you to build prototyping screens really quickly, update those basic UI components and those icon library. It gives you access to the advanced components, generate screens from text and canvas content, convert screenshots into editable mockups as well. In fact, let's actually show that in example here. So let's say I want to take this screenshot of the inspiration right here and turn this into a prototype here. All I need to do is select that object on my screen, convert image to prototype. Let's go for another mobile app, and it's going to be converting that image icon so that image on my canvas into an editable prototype right away. And that means I can very quickly turn those ideas, screenshots, quick, fast-moving items into a prototype. It looks like it's done a fairly good job. I might need to refine and work with my sidekick to get a better output of my prototype. So this is where I can start to really go backwards and forwards with my Miro's AI to really get an idea. Really insightful, really helped me to design better and have a prior idea of how my design might look like. Absolutely. In terms of where prototype sits in that development flow, your team working on that product spec brief, as that brief changes, you can actually have the prototype updating in various different versions. Of course, what you've seen today is a very quick example, and we've built, I'd say, maybe a 5 out of 10 app right here. It's absolutely going to need some changes. But using Miro's AI, collaborating with my teammates, I can very quickly make those changes based on the contents of my canvas, and pull those items on my canvas into that prototyping process. As we approach the end of our session today, are there any questions anyone has in the chat around the prototyping feature? It's worth mentioning, as we go through and we update the versions of our prototype and we really start kind of configuring and updating the flow here, you are able to see the various different versions as you go through, and you can toggle between those versions as you go. So if version 5 actually had some elements that you want to use in version 7, you can easily go backwards and forwards between your version history as you prototype as well. I quite like to actually add them to the canvas and have them be, objects on my canvas I can reference later, but we do have that flexibility as well. This, paired with a lot of Miro's AI features, like the all activity feature, where you get a sort of time-lapse view of all the changes gone on inside of your canvas, means that when you're collaborating at speed, your team can very quickly see the changes and updates to your prototypes that you're building instantly from your canvas. Miro moves from not just being the place where you brainstorm ideas, but actually is able to fabricate some of those ideas in a lo-fi prototype to give you an idea of that first draft. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been a very brief and quick look at the prototyping feature. Please expect to see more webinars and sort of quick tips, feature showcases from Generation Digital around Miro and some of our other tools as well, as we go through and showcase what you can do inside of a tool like Miro. Thank you very much. That is all from me. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging on inside the chat for a little bit longer. So if there are any questions you have, please feel free to drop them in the chat there, and I'll be more than happy to answer. Let's go back to my title screen here. Perfect. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Amazing. If there aren't any more questions, I'm going to close down the webinar for you today. If you do want to find out a little bit more around prototypes and have any follow-up questions, please feel free to get in touch with Generation Digital through the website generationdigital.com. I'll be able to get this file. Unfortunately, this demo space is only available to myself, as this is a sort of demo space built for partners. However, the recording of this webinar in sort of a more cut down focus version is going to be available on our YouTube channel and on our various different socials. So please feel free to check those out in the coming days to see a cut up version of this webinar for you.